What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Baseball Planet YouTube channel. I'm Michael. I'm here with Anthony and the newest member of the squad, Braden. Braden, welcome. Today
Thank
we're
you.
going to be going over some blockbuster signings that occurred, some rumors that are also occurring, and what's going on with these certain teams. To start off, Justin Verlander,
He is
reigning Cy
86
Young Award
million
winner,
dollars
goes
with
with
the
a
New York
third-year
Mets.
vesting option. I have my Mets hat on right now. Verlander, the Mets. Mets lose DeGrom, lose their multi-time Cy Young Award winner to the Rangers, like we mentioned in the last YouTube video, and then they get the reigning Cy Young Award winner, Justin Verlander. My opinion, good deal for the Mets. A guy that the Mets needed. It was either him, Verlander, or Rodon. They ended up with Verlander. I really like the deal for the Mets. Great fit for Verlander, and that's my take on it.
Yeah, I got to I'll take the first one, I guess. I got to agree with Bub for a number of reasons. First off, and we're all Mets fans, so we can obviously agree with this. DeGrom's body language this whole season, I hate to say, he didn't want to be here. And you knew the second he was opting out, whether no matter where he go. And listen, if we have one thing to be grateful for as Mets fans, he didn't go to Atlanta, so we have that to be happy about at least. But personally, I look at this contract from Texas, and I don't like it. I'll be honest. And listen, Texas has proven the last two off seasons they signed Semien and Seager to big contracts last off season. They're not afraid to spend, obviously, but you pay that money for a guy to be healthy all 5 years, and as much. And listen, I'm a big fan of Jacob Degrom. I mean that. And the thing about it is, I know Ant's an Islander fan, a lot of Islander fans. I don't want to hear John to like this is a John Tavares scenario because quite frankly, it's not. It's he won it elsewhere, and you know what? I feel like the team. It's the end of an era. It's the end of an era, and now with especially with maybe Nimmo leaving, and I know the Mets are maybe in on a guy like Andrew Benintendi who spent last season with the Yankees. It's going to be interesting, but personally, I like the Verlander signing. I think 2 years at what was it, 86 million, which is the same as Max is making. I'll take that for 2 years over DeGrom making like 37 million the next 5 years, and we know he's not going to be healthy. I hope. I don't want to say I hope he is because then I hope Texas struggles. I think a part of me wants that because it's kind of like a little rivalry now. But no, I don't have any hard feelings toward DeGrom. I'll be honest. I mean, I wish he would have stayed, but at the same time, the move doesn't surprise me, and at the same time, it's like yeah, like I said, I'll take JV's contract definitely, and Kate Upton, by the way, over Degrom right now because if and this is the way you got to look at it, Bubba. If we get Degrom, if we get Degrom back at that contract, you pay him that money to be healthy, one, and you pay him to start a certain amount of games each year. But he hasn't shown me anything in the last two seasons that would convince me that he can stay healthy. And I want him to be here. I don't want to see DeGrom leave. He was my favorite pitcher. I got his jersey. He was like it's the end of an era. And once think about it, once Nimmo leaves, which seems inevitable at this point, as much as I want the Mets to keep him because I loved him in center field this past season, when he leaves, there won't be no players remaining for the 2016 wildcard team. And and a lot of Met fans were thinking of that is a lot of Met fans are it's in two groups right now, and I don't know where I am, but the two groups with DeGrom leaving and now potentially Nimmo being gone as well, which looks more likely by the day. I know Colorado's in the talk. I know he's meeting, I think, with the Padres maybe at some point, but it signifies to me, like I said, the end of an era, but also at the same time, it's do the Mets there's like I said, there's two groups. Some people want to take this as a rebuilding sign and try and get younger. There's also the people though, and rightfully we should be. Steve Cohen is willing to spend money, and yeah, it's something we didn't see a lot with the Wilpons. And when they did spend money, it blew up in their faces. Cespedes, cough, cough. But it's a mix between people wanting to start fresh and young, but this is also a team that last year I know they messed up in the wild card game. We all saw that, and we don't need to be reminded. Me and Ant went to game one; it was a travesty. But this is still a team that if you have the right pieces in place, they can definitely make a run. So I like the move of Verlander. Do I think the Mets need to do more? Absolutely. Will they? I have no clue. Do I think Steve Cohen has the money? He absolutely does. So it'll be interesting to see. I know Carlos Rodon is in the talks. I know Aaron Judge seems like an outside shot at this point. I feel like he's going to the Giants, so we'll get into that, I'm sure. But if you're going to give me two guys, or at least one guy to start now, I want Carlos Rodon for my rotation. But, I mean, like I said, I don't want the ground to be gone, but, I'm not paying him that contract. I'm fine with Verlander, what they gave him.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, you can't really find a better replacement for Jacob DeGrom than Justin Verlander. So I think that DeGrom obviously clearly didn't want to be here, and I think that there was a main part of the Mets that they didn't want DeGrom back either. They seemed to grow enamored with Verlander when they were talking to him. They seemed relieved when he was gone, which I can't blame them. I think that the Mets' goal is just to sign guys to short-term deals, patch up their holes for now, build their prospect system up so they can have a sustainable winner, and get those veteran pieces on big money contracts. Now, with Verlander signing a short-term deal, there's obviously risk involved there too, like there is with DeGrom, but it's not you're not on the hook for 5 or potentially even 6 years with DeGrom. So you got Verlander for 2, maybe 3. And after that, next off season, now maybe you can take a shot at going for Shohei Ohtani. Maybe you can trade for him. At the end of the day, I don't think that there's hard feelings either way. I don't think DeGrom wanted to play in New York anymore. I think he wanted to go back to Texas. And I think the Mets kind of wanted to move on. And at the end of the day, it seemed more like a divorce than, a hard side animosity towards each side. And I think that each side is just fine on both ends, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so really good points made by these two guys, and I think also something to point out is, as Braden mentioned, all of us here are Mets fans. If you would have told us probably in like 2017, 2018 that the rotation would be headed by Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander, with Francisco Lindor at shortstop and potentially Starling Marte out in outfield, I think we'd probably call you crazy. Especially Braden. Braden definitely would have called you crazy. But
Braden's a negative Mets fan.
It's so just to touch on one thing before we move on, Bubba. I like the fact that you brought up like the past and what we were told because we remembered like DeGrom spent what 10 years here, was a rookie. Actually, no, it's rookie 2014 or 2013 if I'm correct. I think it was
2014.
2014.
Spent
Yep.
8 years with the club, but what people like fail to remember because everyone forgot about Harvey. Met fans didn't forget about Syndergaard because of obviously whatever the whole thing with the Angels not wanting to play us and whether he was scared or not, we'll never know. We're never gonna get anyone to admit that. But the picture of those aces with Harvey, with Syndergaard, DeGrom, from back in 2015, Zach Wheeler, but I think Bartolo Colon was in that picture also.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like I said, it's turning the because and also honestly I'm happy because maybe minus everyone but DeGrom, but that era was supposed to be like the golden age, especially with all you had like a rotation full of everyone's like they were predicted Cy Youngs, they were going to lead us to the promised land. It didn't happen, but it's turning the page now. You start fresh, and you hope that this era of Mets baseball is a lot better. Even though DeGrom and Verlander are getting up there in age, and we don't need to talk about that at all, but it's like Ed said, grow the prospects and try and get this team headed back in the right direction. Try and get hopefully past the wild card, and maybe win the division this season.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a very exciting season for the Mets, especially because I think Ben Verlander mentioned that he was talking to Justin and, after he signed the contract, Justin said that the Mets, front office guys, basically like Cohen, Epler, basically said to him, this team's going to look a lot different at opening day than it is now. So it just shows that the Mets aren't done making moves. And it'll be very exciting to watch. And honestly, where the Mets used to be with the Wilpons to where they are now with Cohen's the same. Their biggest signing back then used to be, or biggest move back then was like Wilson Ramos, Rick Porcello, Michael Wacha, all the short deals back in like 2020. Now they're big. Steve Cohen's made a splash every single offseason so far. First offseason went out there, had a great offseason, got Francisco Lindor in the trade, ended up extending him. Second off season. It's crazy to think this is already his third off season with the Mets. I mean, time's flown by so far. Second off season with the Mets, went out, got Scherzer, Marte, Canna, Escobar, bunch of good pieces. Now this off season, so far he's gone out there, extended Diaz, best closer in the game. Already signed Justin Verlander, and the stove is barely hot. I mean, it got turned on today, and it got turned on pretty fast right after Verlander and a guy we'll be mentioning next, got signed to contracts. But there's still a lot more to be done, and I'm really excited to see, especially like Brandon said, the Mets fans, we're kind of getting spoiled at this point. What superstars could be on the Mets next? And it's back then it used to be, all right, we have no money to get guys like Harper and Machado. Now it's like, all right, bring us 2023, 2024 off season so we could go get guys like Shohei Ohtani. Like it's that kind of thing. It's nice to know that you have a chance at basically everybody, but obviously they can't get everybody, but you have a chance at everybody. It seems like. All right. Next guy we want to talk about, Trey Turner. Trey Turner to the Phillies, 11 years, $300 million Great for Trey Turner. Trey contract. Turner's probably the best shortstop in the game. Also, it's just a great deal for him. And he's making, I think, what is that? Probably like 27 million a year. I think that is 27 million a year.
It's got to be
Yeah, I
around
believe
there.
that's correct.
What
Yeah.
he's going to get out most of that, and we'll touch on it both. He's going to get a lot of money into his latter seasons, which is he's definitely
Yeah.
going to benefit off of. But
And
that
then,
being said, this is also a move. If I'm the Phillies, I like it because you're coming off a World Series appearance, and I think, listen, I'll take Trey Turner in my infield over Gene Segura any day, and that's not to diss Segura. I just, like you mentioned, Trey Turner is probably the best shortstop in baseball right now. This is like I said, this is
Yeah,
it's a Phillies team that's not the youngest, but they're there. They have a lot of big
yeah.
contracts. Harper, Zach Wheeler leading their rotation now. Aaron Nola up there as well. Team made the World Series last season, so they're obviously looking to splurge. You don't want to lose talent right after taking the NLCS home. So it's definitely a contract, like I said, that it's for short term. They're definitely gonna because it's funny, they were talking about it at the radio station today, and they were talking like I forget what it was. It was like obviously the short term success of it, but how I'm blanking on this. I don't know why. It's like I'm trying to remember what they said. It was like I don't know. Give me your opinion. It'll come back.
I'll pick you up. I'll pick you up when you're
Thank you.
down.
Thank
That's
you.
what we do here. We're a team. We're a team, boys. Um, so I mean, I think it's a great signing for him. He clearly wants to come back to the East Coast. They needed a shortstop. That allows them to move Bryson Stott to second base. I think they got a lot stronger defensively. Turner's not a Gold Glove guy like Lindor or something like that, but he's very adequate there. He's 5'2". He has power. He steals bases, hits for high average. I think on top of that, I don't think that contract is that expensive. When you see guys like Lindor getting 341 for 10 years, I thought that Trey Turner was going to at least tie that. He had 300, so $40 million less. And on top of that, you get a leadoff guy. So now you can move Schwarber down the lineup. Now he can hit home runs with people that's actually on base. So instead of everything being a solo homer to lead off the game, he's going to be hitting 3-run bombs now. So I think it balances out an already stacked field lineup. I mean,
Yeah.
they have the pitching. I think they clearly need some more help in the bullpen. I think Robertson was pretty solid from last year. Losing Eflin didn't help. They need more. They need some back end starters, some more help in the bullpen. But their starting lineup with their bats. I mean, that's a scary lineup to face. If Castellanos can get hot again, that's not a team you're going to want to face next season.
No, and it just came back to me actually. I think the need for the Phillies to make this statement not only because obviously making the World Series is big, but it's really this season, and you can kind of see it with the NFL this season and how that's working out too a little bit. The regular season means very, very little, and that's in a lot of sports. We see it in hockey all the time. We see it in we saw it in baseball, full on display this season. But they didn't have the best regular season. They won 87 games. They barely snuck into the playoffs, and they went on this Cinderella run. So I think now the pressure of being in a division with obviously a team like the Braves who doesn't need an explanation. You have a team like the Mets who is, like we said, willing to spend as much as, or Steve Cohen is willing to spend as much as he can to try and make a winner, try and get this team to a World Series. There's added pressure there. So obviously this is a move, and like you mentioned, if Castellanos can get hot again, it's going to come down to can the fit because they've proven they could play in October. Now, can they repeat that? It's going to be very, very, very difficult to repeat that, especially as a 6 seed. But they're just missing the regular season part of it. Now, like we said, the regular season doesn't mean much, but obviously it would look not a lot nicer, but it would be much more comfortable to sneak in, maybe get a first 1 or 2 seed, get a bye. We know the third seed doesn't get a bye anymore. Well, they never got a bye before, but might only be guaranteed 3 games instead of guaranteed 2 games rather instead of 3. So it's an interesting move. I mean, we'll have to wait and see, but the NL East is going to be a very tough division this year, and we saw it today. Mets making a move, Phillies making a move. I don't think if there's any consensus, I think the Braves will probably lose Swanson. It's going to be very tough to keep him. but they're going to be looking to make a trade like they did last season with Matt Olson when they lost Freddie Freeman. So the NL East is not going to get any weaker from here. It probably will not.
Yeah, I mean, I want to bring up a point before like Anthony was talking about the stacked lineup that the Phillies have. Before this season, the Phillies lineup was basically, I mean, pretty dangerous. I mean, they were taking pictures of them at spring training together. You know, there's a picture of Harper, Realmuto, Schwarber, Castellanos, and like Hoskins all together. Now you have Realmuto, Hoskins, Turner, Bohm, Alec Bohm, who had a really good season. Schwarber,
Underrated
yes,
player.
yeah,
He
Schwarber,
gets a lot of hate for his
Castellanos,
glove, but he can hit.
yeah,
He improved
yeah.
His
defensively
glove
too.
looked better. His glove has looked better as of late.
I mean, the thing was, he had that terrible inning against the Mets. I think he made like 3 errors or something, and everybody's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
this guy sucks again defensively." But then he kind of made up for it with his bat. He played really good baseball, hit the ball hard, got base hits, did everything on the offensive side. But like Braden was saying, I think it was AD, either one. Talk about their pitching. They have Wheeler, they have Nola. But after that, it's kind of like Suarez. And if I'm missing anybody, apologies, but. After that, I feel like they need to add another piece to the rotation. I feel like Jameson Tynan would be a nice little solid piece for them. Um, and then for the bullpen, they lost Eflin. Then on top of that, Robertson's a free agent right now. So they have a lot of questionables in the bullpen. They've always been known for having a terrible bullpen.
Yeah.
They lost Neris, but he really wasn't that good for them. Went to the Houston, had a pretty good year, won some games for the Astros in the World Series and playoffs, kind of like a revenge. Um, I mean, yeah, that's basically, Turner. Like Braden was saying, the division's going to be very tough. The Braves are the Braves every year. They're going to be good. Somehow they lock up their star players, star young players to contracts combined to be over, just under 200 million. They gave Acuna and Albies those contracts years ago before they even made their debuts. I think Albies got like a $35 million contract overall, which is crazy. Cunha's barely getting paid for a guy that who has been a top player in the league before he got hit with injuries and had a bad year this year. But on top of that, they signed Strider and Harris, who are both Rookie of the Year candidates. Harris ended up winning. They signed them to they signed them both to contracts that's team friendly. So they kind of robbed them. And yeah, and the Phillies look really good. They just came off a National League pennant. The Mets obviously look really good, winning 101 games despite the kind of embarrassment in the playoffs that they were talking about before. And I just think it's going to be a really good fight, but it's also going to be a very nerve-wracking fight because it's going to come down to the end, in my opinion, which I do not want to happen as a fan of the Mets. Anyways, if no one else has anything to say, we're going to move on to Anthony DeCoco's favorite signing of the period so far. We have Carlos Estevez for the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Threatened me to put this in here, and this is his favorite player so far signed this offseason. Carlos Estevez. Solid reliever that came from the Rockies. I really haven't looked into it much. It's not that big of a move, but it could definitely be a move that could benefit the Angels and their bullpen with all the uncertainties they got in there. I'll give this one to AD because I know AD likes to talk about this guy, so I'll give this one to him.
I mean, the solid bullpen arm. There's nothing really much to say about it. Angels always need help with their bullpen. I don't think they're gonna win many games next year. And having good bullpen arms to help lock down the few games that you will win, that's gonna help you. I still think they need some starters. I still think they need a lot of stuff other than, generational talents in Shohei and Trout. But yeah, solid bullpen depth. You always need bullpen depth in this league, so it's a nice signing, not too expensive. So yeah.
And Braden, no words for Braden, short and sweet from AD. Also, what I wanted to say
Well,
was,
if you want to actually, I'll give a few words because Ant mentioned like they need more. This is a team. If they're trying to audition for Shohei Ohtani to stay, they're trying. I'll give them credit. Do I think it's going to work out? No. I mean, I like the Tyler Anderson move, especially how he looked with LA last season. I know this signing is good, but this team has way more holes than Carlos Estevez and Tyler Anderson are going to patch for them. And
yeah,
if I'm and it kind of annoys me. I have no relation to the Angels, but it annoys me because we're watching Shohei Ohtani, who probably will be gone soon. Whether it's free agency, they should trade. They should trade him now. I don't even know
yeah,
why you make these moves. You trade Ohtani, you get what you can because this organization. I hate to say it, if this season goes down the drain, Ohtani's leaving in free agency. So then you
Yeah.
lose a generational talent potentially, both on the
Otani's
mound and
leaving. Otani's,
yeah, he's gonna go. So
And
the odds
also
of
the
him
fact
staying,
that,
unless he
yeah,
really wants to be in LA, unless he really wants, which I don't think he does, there's absolutely zero chance he stays. That's for Mike Trout. He's locked in. Now, will he request a trade? Maybe. When he's healthy, there's not a team in the league that doesn't want him. But
yeah.
it annoys me. Like I said, I don't watch the Angels a lot, but it annoys me when I see such talent being wasted. And that's
Like,
exactly what we see with LA. And it's
like,
not
like,
because
like
trust me,
these guys are
we know
saying,
about talent being wasted.
yeah,
like,
well, now it's on the other end. I'm getting more annoyed for some reason. It's like I
like,
expected it when I was with the Mets.
yeah, like these guys are saying, man. I mean, you have two guys. Mike Trout, who's the best player in this sport, might end up being the greatest player to ever play the game by the time he retires. And he's already a first ballot Hall of Famer. Like he's already done everything he needs to do. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. Just sad that they can't even get into the playoffs. It's like, oh, this guy deserves a ring. He does deserve a ring, but he also deserves a playoff appearance. But they can't get him either. You have Trout and Otani in the same lineup. I'm a big Anthony Rendon guy, and they signed Anthony Rendon a few years ago for him to be just injury prone and not be the same guy. He was the third, in my opinion, the best third baseman when he was with the Nats. It just stinks, and I think Otani is definitely going to leave, and he's going to end up getting the biggest contract in MLB history because one, he's one of the best pitchers in the game. At the same time, he's one of the best hitters in the game. That combined, the guy's going to make $50+ million a year, in my opinion. He's going to get like $500 million
Absolutely.
contract, 250 for being a pitcher, 250 for being a hitter. If we're going to be honest, he deserves like a 350 contract for being a hitter and a 250 contract for being a pitcher. That's all I'm going to say.
He
I
does,
think it's
and
crazy.
I don't. I still don't. Like I said, I don't understand why he's still in an Angel uniform. And listen, if they're trying to make one final addition to keep him, maybe this is it. Maybe their division isn't going to help them because forget about the Rangers and
I
all the
think the
signings.
ownership change is the only reason why they're not moving him right
I'm
now.
hoping so. Do I think it'll have an effect? I don't know. I think they're too far in. It's kind of like we know hockey. It's kind of like when Garth Snow finally left the Islanders. It was too late, and Tavares at that point, it obviously
Mm-hmm.
So if it's something along those lines, obviously that's big. But you trade this guy when his value is at its peak, and for a guy that now I know, listen, Aaron Judge was AL MVP by a mile. We all know that. But for a guy that was the closest to being talked about him and can do everything on a baseball diamond, I don't know why this guy isn't traded for a team's top five prospects right now, and that's what they could get for him. They could get more, but like I said, they're obviously auditioning. I don't think it'll work. I hope it does because I want to see. Mike Trout hasn't won a postseason game as a member of the LA Angels, if I remember right. He went there with them in 2015, and they were swept out by Kansas City. Or no, 2014. My bad.
Yeah,
But
20.
this is a team that has probably maybe the two best players in MLB right now. The fact that they're struggling just to finish above 500, forget about making the playoffs, is alarming. And can they patch it? They're trying to. I don't think they will, but
Yeah.
that remains to be seen. Like I said, the division isn't helping them.
And I think it's crazy that with guys like that, their biggest moves around them have been signing Noah Syndergaard, signing Raisel Iglesias, who's good, but they ended up trading him.
Yeah,
Um, I think honestly, if you try to trade Shohei Ohtani, you're going to get the biggest haul in MLB history, and maybe sports history in general. You're going to get the biggest haul. You're going to get like
Trading Shohei Otani would do more for a rebuild than just having him there to keep people coming to baseball games. You would be
exactly.
able
And
to
the
fill
thing is too,
a ton of holes instantly.
and that's the thing too. You like Otani's a 2-in-1 guy. You put this guy in your lineup, and he could pitch at the same exact time. Obviously, it's not rocket science. Like I'm saying it like nobody knows what I'm talking about. I've heard of this before. But if you really think about it, you trade for Shohei Ohtani, you're getting two different players. You're getting an elite DH, and you're also getting an elite starting pitcher. And it's crazy to think about. And in my opinion, Shohei Ohtani would not be on the Los Angeles Angels right now if there was a DH in the league in the National League years before he came in. That's what I'm going to say. Because at the same time, you put a DH in the National League, he would have went anywhere. The only reason he went to an American League team, in my opinion, is probably because he had a good connection with the Angels. But on top of that, at the same time, like there was no DH for the National League, so he's like, all right, I can only pitch
You got half the
every
team
five
to choose
days,
from.
and he can't hit. Yes, he has to play a position. He does not want to play outfield position. I think they put him in right field once against like the Astros or something in Houston, and I mean I think he played like an inning or something. I mean the guy's a generational talent. You look up generational talent in the dictionary, you're going to see a picture of Joe Latano. I've never seen anything like this before. I'm only 18 years old, but at the same time, if I talk to my dad, I talk to my family. No one's ever seen this before. And the
No.
guy's an absolute unit too. The guy's built like a truck. He's like 6 foot something. I mean, he's huge, and the guy hits bombs, throws 100 miles per hour. I think the most impressive thing is when he started. I think he threw like 100 plus, struck some guy out in the top. The bottom of the inning, he hit like a ball like 115 plus miles per hour for a home run. I mean, it's the craziest. Guy might be the craziest athlete I've ever watched in my eyes. That's all I'm saying. We went on this big Angels rant when we weren't supposed to, but at the same time, it just drove us right into it because I have no idea what they're doing. They're wasting the talents of the best player in the game in Shohei Ohtani. They're both probably number one and number two, and at the same time, I don't think there's anybody in the MLB right now that I look at and say, "Yep, this guy's going to take over Mike Trout's." There's no one who's done what Mike Trout's done. He was hurt for a bunch of games this year, came back, still hit 40 home runs, still had an OPS in the sky, and it's just crazy.
If Mike Trout was healthy, we may have been talking about him chasing Babe Ruth's AL home run or Roger Maris' AL home run record.
Exactly. And this is what I'm going to say too. Next topic is we're going to keep going with the Angels. We're going to upset some people in the who's watching. Anyways, next topic. Yankees made a huge contract extension. Aaron Judge? No. Brian Cashman? Yes. Brian Cashman, 4 years back to the Yankees. Really got nothing much to say to this besides the fact that it's stupid. Has he been with the team since like the 80s and 90s? Yes. Should he still be running the team? No. You know why? They're one of the most valuable teams in the sports world right now. And in my opinion, if George Steinbrenner was still running the team, he'd have everybody and anybody. He's literally this. He was Steve Cohen. That's who George Steinbrenner was. And at this point, he's still not getting anybody. He gets Garrett Cole. Okay, Garrett Cole's a very good pitcher, but at the same time, when the big games happen, can he come through? Not really. And also Garrett Cole's a guy where you look at his stat line, it seems almost every week, every 2 weeks, and he blows up, gives up like 5 runs, a few home runs, and that's it. But I don't know if these guys really have any opinions on it. But if they do, go right ahead. And yeah, that's all for me.
It was inevitable. I mean,
Very
you heard
true.
the rumors. He's basically been working free for what, since October? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you knew it was coming eventually. This whole 4-year contract is just going to be determined if he signs number 99 or not. So that's all I really have to say.
I'll follow up with that. Listen, it's a move and it broke today, and all the Yankees fans that I know that I'm friends with, they don't like it, and you know what? I don't blame them because the thing about it is people look at the Cashman sign like, oh well, look where he's taking the Yankees, but like at the same time, talk about a team that hasn't made, and this is a team. Keep in mind that the World Series of bust every season, especially when you have a guy like Judge leading the charge. And this season with the team, it was a little bit different. We often find ourselves asking, where would the Yankees be this season without Judge? And as the days grow and they grow, and more talk between San Francisco and Judge continues to be, we really have to ask ourselves. We might find the results finally in that question, because Aaron Judge might not be a Yankee. Now, like Ann also said, this very well could determine the more his who Brian Cashman is. Who he is will be defined by what happens with Aaron Judge. Because if he, and at this point, listen, you can make the argument, same thing with DeGrom. Maybe Judge doesn't want to be here. But, whatever the Yankees are willing to put on the table, and they're going to be doing whatever they can, I would believe, whether Cashman can make the move or not, that's going to define him. People hate him enough now. If Judge leaves, I don't even know where to begin. Yeah. They'll be calling for his head in the Bronx, so I can assure you that. And it's not going to be a pretty day in New York. That's
they're calling for his head right now in the Bronx right now.
Yeah.
And I mean, a new feature I'm going to be trying out is some pictures and videos and highlights while we're talking. Braden mentioned the Mets rotation before, back in years ago, when it was like all those guys you were talking about all lined up. That's going to be in the video, so you get to see that picture. Another picture that I'm talking about right now, I saw on Twitter today. It was like this New York Post back page, and it was like, let me look at it right now, so I don't get any information wrong. By the way, it says, and it's 4 people or 4 players in Yankees uniforms. This was before them being photoshopped. Start the offseason. Aaron Judge. By the way, Bombers need to spend big to get back to championship heights. It's Aaron Judge, and the 3 guys photoshopped into uniforms, Yankee uniforms, is Carlos Correa, Edwin Diaz, and Justin Verlander. So, Edwin Diaz and Justin Verlander, where are they, fellas?
With our New York Mets, fella.
New York Mets. They're with the New York Mets. So it's like crazy. It's you promote these guys as Yankee potential signings, and two of the three end up with the Mets so far. Two of the four.
You know the thing about that, Bubba. Though I'll say this: this is also a talk because say the Yankees keep Judge, and they're already hesitant to do that enough because of the money. We know that.
Yeah,
So you keep Judge, great, they're good for you. You give him 300, 350 million, however much you want. But then who do you like? Already you're scared with money, so you spend it all on him. Then who are you going to get to help him out? Like I get
Yeah.
me like
To,
re-signing
to
Rizzo was good
piggyback
I
because
think
to piggyback off what you're saying, Braden, Aaron Judge's historic season covered up basically all the holes in the Yankees last year. If he wasn't
yeah.
on that team, they're not even sniffing the playoffs, let
that's
alone winning the
yep.
division or winning a playoff series.
I was about
If
to mention
without Judge
that they
last
don't.
season, they are what everyone predicted them to be in that division at the start of the season because
Yep.
the division was so stacked and it kind of underachieved a little bit. I know the Rays and the Blue Jays went home early, but that was the division that you could see the Yankees finishing fourth. They probably would have finished third or fourth if it wasn't for Judge. So the Rizzo signing I like because maybe it brings him back, but then who do you get? Because you're not signing, like you're not going to make any more moves. It's not happening. And and all the Yankees fans like, oh, run it back, it'll be different next time. Like, no, this team is still going to get their butts kicked probably by Houston at best in the ALCS, and that's just been the case. And if Judge leaves, this team might not even make the playoffs. They might not even need
Yeah,
consideration. Now,
and
what the Yankees need to do, they need to rely on the youth. They need to rely on Cabrera. They need to rely on Volpe. They need to rely all the kids. You're never gonna move Garrett Cole or Giancarlo Stanton's contracts. Now Judge is obviously different. Judge is he's obviously a better hitter than Stanton. We've seen that this past season. It really comes down to you how much do you want to give a guy that probably just had his best season, and it's not if it gets better than that, he'll be worth whatever you give him.
yeah,
But the main concern if I'm a Yankees fan is like, okay, we sign Judge or we re-sign Judge, and then what? Because there's not many more moves you can make.
I think it's pretty telling that last year Verlander turned down the Yankees, and they thought that he didn't want to play in New York, and then this offseason he signed with the Mets. I think that kind of shows you where their organization's heading, and I think that they need to make some serious changes there. These on top Judge, you need another top end starter. I know they're interested in Rodon, and I think that they need to make that happen. I think that's a must. Then after Judge and Rodon, you also need to sign some more bats. You need to Benintendi would help, and then I think you need a star bat on top of that. Their left side of the infield, it's not pretty.
yeah. And what I want to say too, Brady made a good point. Rely on the youth. I think the Yankees do have a very good future. They have guys like Volpe. I mean, he's still young, really young, but Jason Dominguez is going to be up in a few years. You have Cabrera. You have both Cabreras. Um, and but the thing was, like AD was talking about, we're running a little bit low on time right now, so we're gonna kind of wrap this up, but we can still have conversations. But um, what I was gonna say was there's so many times where the Yankees put out their lineup on Twitter. I'm like, dude, this is a terrible lineup. Like their lineup, and I think it's all about Boone too. It's all about Boone in the front office. It's like your team is only relevant right now because of Aaron Judge. Anthony Rizzo had a solid year. Stanton had a solid year. But the thing is, like, they're a good team because of Judge. He had 62, 63 home runs. And it's like, all right, what would you do without Judge? That's the kind of question that I'm kind of asked. I mentioned it multiple times before, friends, probably these guys. I don't think the Yankees make the playoffs without Judge at all. I don't think they sniff it like AD said. Excuse me. I don't think they sniff it like AD said. And it's like, really, where would they be? I mean, I think me and Mike projected the Blue Jays to win the division on our account preseason, but I mean that didn't happen. But the Yankees won wide because of Aaron Judge. Next, we're gonna do a nice little 3 minute warning right here, 3 minute rundown. Brandon Nimmo, who we mentioned, meeting with teams. I think Braden mentioned before some teams he's potentially meeting with. He's down in San Diego, as he posted on his Instagram story today. He's in San Diego for the winter meetings. And Aaron Judge and Carlos Rodon, who have both been mentioned recently, likely signing this week. If they don't, I'd be pretty shocked because momentum's kind of high. I think if Aaron Judge doesn't sign this week, I wouldn't be that surprised. But I think if Rodon doesn't sign this week at the winter meetings, I'd be shocked. And next thing I want to talk about, kind of wrap this up. The Dodgers lost out on Trey Turner, or didn't lose out. They lost him to the Phillies. Lost Trey Turner to the Phillies. Got rid of Cody Bellinger, who obviously has not had a good year since his MVP season. And you know, They signed Kershaw back, but at the same time, they're going to sign Kershaw back basically every single year until he retires. And then also on top of that, um, I mean, they lost out on Verlander. It was either the Mets or the Dodgers, kind of a Trevor Bauer part two, but the Mets won this time. And I don't know. It's just kind of crazy because I think the Dodgers, no matter who they have, they're going to be good. They have random guys coming from AAA or Double A, and they're like, oh, this guy's the next Mike Trout kind of thing, or this guy's the next, Jacob DeGrom. But at the same time, it's like they lost out on multiple superstar players, lost their superstar player. They've lost Max Scherzer and Trey Turner back-to-back off seasons. But at the same time, when they lost Max Scherzer, they won, I think, the most games in franchise history. That's what's crazy about them. I'll let these guys give a nice little snippet, but we have about minute 35 left. So,
I'll take it quick. So just for the Dodgers, this doesn't surprise me. Listen, the Dodgers, I'll close out with this. The Dodgers are going to be in the same story every year. They're going to win 100-something games. They're going to make their moves at the trade deadline and get the guys like Turner, like Scherzer, like, Machado and Dozier they had back, I think it was 2018, if I believe. They're going to make those moves. Now, the question for this team always relies on October because we know they can't get over the hump. Now, they have the prospects to make moves like that. They also have the prospects to bring up and get them to the playoffs. But the real test for this team lies in October, and until they prove me wrong, I don't see them going far there.
Yep, got to sign either Bogarts or Correa now, and then add a starter. And I think that's what they'll do. I can't imagine them not getting one of those two guys.
short and sweet from Anthony DeCoco. Nice explaining by Braden Danielle. Braden, Anthony, thank you guys for coming on today. Obviously,
Oh,
Braden,
one last thing to add.
Oh.
One last thing to add.
Oh,
Sean Murphy trade may be close,
oh yeah,
but we heard that last night, so nobody knows what's going on.
yeah. Anyways, thank you for the final point. But as I said, we're running kind of low. I didn't expect us to go this long. Anthony, Braden, thank you both. Braden, you did a great job first time on.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for watching, and thanks for tuning in. See you guys next time.